Today, we talk about what it do. So, another question I got a while back was how do I pay off med school? Shit's expensive. And you're right, it is. And that's kind of a tricky question, but the short and long of it is no fucking stuff. The short and long of it is I got a lot of help from my parents. I'll be honest with you. And they're not rich by any means, but they really prioritize me and my sister's education. So I'm beyond thankful for them for a billion different reasons, but one of the main tangible reasons is cash. But there's kind of not a silver lining there, but kind of a dark side to that because I'll explain it to you in a second. But basically, a few different factors. One is, they prioritize my education, so they obviously, prioritize paying off my education. And then towards the tail end, there was a bit of it left that I was going to do myself, but then I just asked them to pay it off so that I could pay them back interest free, essentially, which I ended up doing very quickly after med school ended and I started making some actual monies in residency, although not that much, not as much as now, but it was nice going from zero / in debt to now making monies. It was nice. Now, the other factor here was the costs weren't as high for me as most people because I lived at home. So like a lot of my original videos, if you go back and look, that's my family home. And my parents ended up moving to Dubai, but they left the house there and I would live there. And there was even a brief period of time during medical school and even during my early residency training where they were still living in the house. And I just chose not to live on my own. I could have afforded an apartment. I could have taken out additional loans to pay for an apartment. And I know a lot of people really can't stand living with their parents. They said there's no way I would ever go back and live with my parents. They're too annoying. They're too this, they're too that. And yeah, there is some truth to that, of course. But it was never enough for me to warrant not wanting to live at home. I mean, bruh, rent on average from people I talk to costs anywhere from like $1,000 to like even for a lot of people $1,500 or more. So if at the minimum you're paying $1,000, and that's whether including or most likely not including utilities and cable and all this other ish. I mean, let's just say $1,000 conservatively. That's $12,000 a year, my guy. And we're talking 4 years of med school, 3 years of residency, 3 years of fellowship. That's a decade saving $12,000 at minimum. Probably most likely around $15,000. So 15,000 times a decade, that's 150 grand, my guy. Anywhere from 120 to 150 grand I saved just by living at home. Not only did I save that monies, food was provided while they were still living there, Wi-Fi, clean linens and sheets, laundry. My mom is a realist, okay? And my pops as well. But man, that was a big help. Now, not the silver lining here, but the darker side of this is, in retrospect, I almost wish they didn't pay for my ish. Because, of course, it wasn't until my very last year of med school when they started to offer financial seminars, aka one fucking half-hour session, where they're like, hey, by the way, here's some options of how to pay back your loans. And, of course, I probably didn't do my due diligence of looking into this because, I luckily had the fortunate blessing of being in a position where my parents, were able to help in that way. But if I didn't, I'm sure I would have started to explore some of these options sooner. But there is something that I want a lot of you guys to know about, which I didn't find out about until that very last, basically, week of medical school, which was there's this loan forgiveness program. And it applies to, I forget the exact details of it, you can Google it. But basically with this loan forgiveness program, if you work for a nonprofit hospital or nonprofit job as a doctor for a decade, then the government will forgive whatever loans you still have left. So you still would be making minimum payments. So there's different loan structures that you can do, like the standard 10-year repayment plan where you pay a set amount every month for 120 straight months, and then your loans are done. The other option is to do income-based, where you're paying less per month, but it's going to take you, I forget how long, like 30 years. I think it's like a 30-year loan. I could be wrong about that, but it's spread out over a much longer period of time. You're paying less each month, but that interest, though, that's going to be collecting. So over the span of the loan, you'll be paying more overall monies than if you did the 10-year classic repayment method. Now, with that said, though, after 10 years, if you work in nonprofit positions, those, if you make the minimum payments as opposed to the standard payments over 10 years, you make the minimum payments over 10 years, then whatever is left of those loans, they will be forgiven. And please correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong about this, because I never ended up going through this. I did encourage my parents to have my sister go through this because she's currently going through her training right now. But that's the other part of this. So your training will count towards that, because almost every hospital in the country is a nonprofit. So your residency training and potentially your fellowship training, if you were to pursue a fellowship / subspecialty, will be covered under that guise. So for me, for example, I did 3 years of internal medicine after medical school, and then I did 3 years of GI fellowship. That's 6 years already. So I would only have to work at a nonprofit for 4 additional years before the rest of my loans are forgiven. You know what I'm saying? Now, in addition to that, a lot of these jobs, because doctors are in such high demand, especially in certain parts of the country, let alone other parts of the country that are maybe higher demand, a lot of these places will offer a package that includes loan forgiveness in it. Like something like, we offer this much salary, this much benefits, this much blah, blah, blah. And we also offer a loan forgiveness program of $15,000 a year or something like that, or $30,000 a year. I think I remember reading somewhere once in these thousands of emails you get a day towards the end of medical school offering you jobs and shit. So, or residency. So, that's another option to help you kind of pay off these loans quicker. So unfortunately, I couldn't take advantage of any of those because, my parents had already kind of assisted heavily with that. So, definitely plan on paying them back in more ways than one from that perspective, not just monetarily, but just for everything they've done in my life. But yeah, that's the long and the short answer of it. So I'm hoping that was useful for you. If you have any additional questions about loans and how to pay off school and all that kind of ish, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one. We out. Peace.